please. Distinguished colleagues, Chief Whip of the Senate, distinguished colleagues, votes and proceedings. Votes and proceedings. Page 53. Page 53. Page 54. Page 54. 54. Yeah, Senator Ayo Akin-Alure.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Mena Akin-Alure, representing Ondo Central. Under 7, Mr. President, the consideration of report should be presentation of report. Consideration of report should be presentation of report. And number 2, consider should be received. That is, that the Senate do receive, instead of consider.
Which item is that?
Item 7, Mr. President.
Okay.
Yeah, consideration.
Secretariat, take note.
Okay, sir.
Page 54. Page 55. Page 55. Senator Ibrahim Yahya Luragbe, move for the adoption of the votes and proceedings.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, my name is Ibrahim Yahya Luragbe. I represent Kwara Central Senatorial District. I rise to move that the vote and proceeding of Tuesday,
I think we need to decongest that place, please.
I rise to move that the vote and proceeding of Tuesday, 30 June 2020 be adopted as amended. I so move, sir.
Senator Adigian.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. Senator Adigian, Plateau North. I rise to second the motion that the votes and proceedings of Tuesday, 30th June 2020 be approved. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the votes and proceedings of Tuesday, 30th June 2020 be approved, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. The votes and proceedings of Tuesday, 30th June 2020 is hereby approved. Distinguished colleagues, letter from Mr. President. Dear Distinguished Senate President, appointment of Career Ambassador Designate. In accordance to Section 171, subsections 1, 2C, and subsection 4 of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended, I have the honor to forward for confirmation by the Senate the appointment of Mr. Suleiman Sani as Career Ambassador Designate from the FCT. Copy of his curriculum vitae is attached herewith. It is my hope that this request will receive the usual expeditious consideration of the Senate. Please accept, Distinguished Senate President, the assurances of my highest consideration. Yours sincerely, Muhammadu Buhari. Letter from Mr. President. Dear Distinguished Senate President, appointment of non-career ambassadors designate. In accordance to Section 171, subsections 1, 2C, and subsection 4 of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended, I have the honor to forward for confirmation by the Senate the underlisted 41 names of nominees as non-career ambassadors designate. Copies of their curriculum vitae are here attached herewith. 1. Engineer Umar Suleiman Adamawa. Mr. Kevin Peter Adamawa. Oboro Effiong Akpabio Akwa Ibom. Chief Elijah Oyagba Anambra. Abubakar D. Ibrahim C. Bauchi. Philip K. Ikurusi Bayelsa. Honorable Tazu Temen Benue. Paul Oga Adiku Benue. Al-Bashir Ibrahim Al-Hussein Borno. Brigadier General Buala Yusuf Bukar Borno. Professor Monique Ekpong Cross River. Omo Jeba Delta. Omi Eze Ebonyi. Yama Mohammed Musa Edo. Major General C.O. Ugu Enugu. Dr. Hajara Salim Gombe. Obezu Ijoma Chinyere Imo. Ali M. Magashi Jigawa. Professor M.A. Makarfi Kaduna. Hamisu Umar Takalmawa Kano. Juzuli Imam Galadanchi Kano. Safiya Ahmad Nuhu Kano. Ambassador Yahaya Lawal Katsina. Dare Sande Awoni Kogi. Ibrahim Kayode Laro Kwara. Abioe Bello Kwara. Zara Maazu Umar Kwara. Ademola Seriki Lagos. Henry John Omaku Nasarawa. Chief Sarafa Tunji Ishola Ogun. Mrs. Nimi Akyonkube Ondo. Adejaba Bello Oshun. Adeshina Alege Oyo. Debo Adeshina Oyo. Fola Kemi Akinyele Oyo. Shehu Abdullahi Yibai Kwal Plateau. Honorable Maureen Tamuno Rivers. Faruk Yabo Sokoto. Adamu M. Hassan Taraba. Alaji Yusuf Mohammed Yobe. Abubakar Moriki Zamfara. While using this opportunity to express my sincere appreciation to the distinguished Senate for the confirmation of career ambassadors earlier forwarded, it is my hope that this request will also receive your usual expeditious consideration. Please accept, distinguished Senate President, the assurances of my highest consideration and personal regards. Yours sincerely, Muhammadu Buhari. Letter from Mr. President, confirmation of appointment of Commissioner of the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission. In accordance with the provision of Section 154, subsection 1 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended, I am pleased to present to the Senate for confirmation the appointment of Engineer Usman Mahmoud Hassan as Commissioner representing Kaduna State in the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission. While hoping that the Senate will consider and confirm the nominee in the usual expeditious manner, please accept, distinguished Senate President, the assurances of my highest consideration. Yours sincerely, Muhammadu Buhari. Letter from Mr. President, dear distinguished Senate President, confirmation of appointment of Commissioner of the Federal Civil Service Commission. In accordance with the provision of Section 154, subsection 1 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended, I am pleased to present to the Senate for confirmation the appointment of Ida Ogbong Williams Omorige Henry as Commissioner representing Edo, Ekiti, and Ondo States in the Federal Civil Service Commission. While hoping that the Senate will consider and confirm the nominee in the usual expeditious manner, please accept, distinguished Senate President, the assurances of my highest consideration. Yours sincerely, Muhammadu Buhari.
Point of order.
Announcement on behalf of the Senate. I wish the following distinguished senators who are born in the month of June a happy birthday, long life, and many more years of service to our fatherland. The Minority Whip, Senator Philip Tanimu Aguda, whose birthday was on 13th June this year. We wish you a happy birthday. Senator Abdul Qadir Suleiman, 12th June. Senator Ashiru Isa, 14th June. Senator Kabiru Ibrahim Gaya, 16th June. Senator Barau Jibrin, 19th June. Senator Samuel Agu, 20th June. Senator Barinada Mpigi, 22nd of June. And Senator Peter Wabushi, 29th of June. On behalf of the Senate, I congratulate our very distinguished colleagues, principal officers of the 9th House of Representatives who are also born in the month of June. I wish them a happy birthday, long life, prosperity, and many more years of service to our fatherland. On behalf of the Senate, another birthday, I wish the distinguished senator, the spokesperson of the Senate, Senator Ajibola Surajuddin Bashiru, who was born on the 1st of July, today is 1st of July, born on the 1st of July. We wish you a very happy birthday, long life, prosperity, and many more years of service to our fatherland. Congratulations to all our distinguished colleagues. Leader of the Senate.
Point of order.
Point of order, Minority Whip.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, thank you very much. I'd like to come under Order 43, Your Excellency. Mr. President, it has to do with the non-career ambassadorial nomination for the FCT, because you have just called out the names for the non-career, and the ambassador that is representing us in Sierra Leone, Freetown, has told me that he has been recalled, the non-career one, back to Abuja, and we just read out.
Chinwe, please, the chamber is a bit noisy, honestly.
Mr. President, you just read out the names of 41 non-career ambassadors. Mr. President, the FCT is not represented in that list, but normally we have a non-career ambassador and one career ambassador. While thanking the President for sending the name of the career one, we want to say that for the FCT, that the non-career has not been submitted. So I want to call upon us who are the State House of Assembly for the FCT, just like you weighed in to ensure that the career one was brought in. Please, it is very important that we tell those who are in charge or saddled with this responsibility to bring in the non-career one, while thanking the President for bringing in the career one, while we are waiting you as our leader in the FCT to do something about it immediately, so that we can have a sense of belonging and to have a sense of being carried along. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Minority Whip.
Point of order.
Point of order. Senator Otazi.
Mr. President. Oh, sorry. Oh. I thought it was me.
Well, we have taken note of that. You can go ahead with what it is.
He notes, Nigeria, while we were on break for 2 weeks, we are freed by the World Health Organization and declared that we are polio free. Mr. President, we have been working very hard to ensure that some of these endemic diseases that have been plaguing the third world countries, especially Nigeria here, that we are free from that. And we achieved a feat. We achieved a very big feat. I remember that late last year, I was part of the delegation that met development partners and World Health Organization at St. Andrews in London, where we went to canvass the issue of this country, that we are actually working very hard to get away from polio. And today, the World Health Organization has done that. Mr. President, I want to say that this Senate notes with a great sense of pride and felicitation the recent declaration of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as a polio-free nation by the World Health Organization, WHO, which landmark and historic event took place on Thursday, 11th June 2020. This Senate recalled that the World Health Organization recently announced that Nigeria had completed documentation for wild polio virus-free status, and that the documentation was accepted by the African Regional Certification Commission for polio eradication. This Senate knows that the attainment of polio virus-free status by Nigeria is historic and remarkable, not only for Nigeria, but for the entire continent of Africa, considering the contagious nature of the virus. This achievement also serves as a major boost to the realization of the goal of eradicating polio globally for good. This Senate aware that since 1988, when the World Health Assembly first declared the polio virus a disease of international concern that must be eradicated by the year 2000, then more than 350,000 children were reportedly paralyzed on the account of the virus in more than 125 endemic, and as a recent, as 2012, Nigeria accounted for more than half of the reported cases globally. This is further aware that since polio, the polio virus was reported in Nigeria, successive administration waged decades-long battle to completely eradicate the virus from Nigeria, and available records show that Nigeria has never recorded any polio virus infection in the past 3 years, culminating into the recent declaration of Nigeria as polio free after appropriate documentation. This students know that there is need to commemorate the attainment of polio virus free status by the government and the people of the Federal Republic of Nigeria in order to bring attention to this landmark achievement and to particularly urge all health authorities at all levels of government in Nigeria and other stakeholders to sustain the vaccination of our children, even though we are now free from the wild polio virus. These students are aware that Nigeria in the recent past successfully contained and defeated the dreaded Ebola virus, and also moved on to contain the spread of Lassa fever and the monkeypox. However, the recent declaration of Nigeria as a polio-free nation calls for special tribute to health workers, health administrators, and other stakeholders, and further action such as immunization to forestall a reversal of this process. This knows that also that the need for the continuous immunization of infants and children within the age of immunization against polio virus need to be emphasized, since the polio is currently available in at least 2 countries, and Nigerian citizens, like citizens of other countries, are bound to embark on international travels and may be at the risk of infection. Accordingly, this is resolved to congratulate and felicitate with the government and people of Federal Republic of Nigeria, particularly the Federal Ministry of Health, Nigeria Center for Disease Control, the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency, the state governments, traditional rulers, heads of religious bodies, development partners, and all medical personnel for their respective contributions that led to the declaration of Nigeria as a polio-free nation. 2, urge government at all levels and their relevant ministries and agencies, traditional rulers, parents, heads of religious bodies, development partners, public health workers, and other stakeholders to sustain immunization of all infants and children of infants and children of immunization age to forestall reversal of this success. And finally, urge the Federal Ministry of Health to adopt guidelines and other measures to prevent the transmission of polio into Nigeria by foreign tourists or Nigerian travelers. I so move, Mr. President.
Congratulations, Nigeria. Point of order, Senator Akin-Elore.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, on the petition, my name remains Akin-Elore, representing Ondo Center, Mr. President. I'm presenting reports of petition not yet laid, but refers to the Committee on Ethics from the Office of the Senate President. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions, in line with Order 41.1 and 3, which is to present to the Senate some petitions yet to be laid from the Office of the Senate President in order to officially place the petition in the public domain through the floor of the Senate, and for votes on proceeding to capture their approval for referral. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, please find below a summary of the petition received from the Office of the Senate President for ease of reference. 1. A petition from Dr. Danladi Farouk Idris against...
Which point of order is that?
41.1, sir. On that petitions, I want to lay the petition.
Okay, go ahead.
The petitioner number 1 is Dr. Danladi Farouk Idris against Bank of Industry. The subject matter of the petition reads, petition against the managing director and top management of Bank of Industry for illegal investment of grants ranging to billions of naira annually, with some identified commercial banks without TSC approval by the presidency, meant for financing cottage and small-scale industry projects across the states of the Federation. He called for Senate investigation. Number 2, Mr. President, a petition from Chief F.O. Number 2, a petition from F.O. Okoye Exima against Nigerian Union of Petitioners on unfair labor practices in First Bank vis-a-vis the plight of First Bank pensioners. 3, petition from J.U. Ayogu Esquire against the Managing Director of UBA for deliberate denial of payment of over 42.4 billion due to liquidators of Nitel and MTEL as a claim for overcharges of bank interest and other charges for settlement of liabilities due to many creditors of liquidated Nitel and MTEL, an action which has resulted into premature deaths of many creditors of the liquidated company. Number 4. Alege Omatayo Shegun versus Federal Civil Service Commission.
The chamber is noisy. Chief Whip. Distinguished colleagues, let's listen to our colleague in silence, please. Okay, go ahead.
Number 4. Alege Omatayo Shegun versus Federal Civil Service Commission and Federal Ministry of Information and Culture. A letter of appeal to restore his regularized appointment and proper placement by Federal Civil Service Commission. Number 5, a petition from Jackson Homene Ayetoro community against Guarantee Petroleum Company Limited on behalf of Ayetoro community to save their soul from the recent OML 95 Ororo Well OSP on 12th of April 2020 and a fire outbreak of 15 May 2020 in Ondo State Sea caused by Guarantee Petroleum Limited. Number 6, a petition from Abudu, Toloroju and Eniola Ademola against and on behalf of Elereke Larada and Elereke Larada Seaside Community requesting for adequate compensation from Guarantee Petroleum Company Limited, oil spillage, notice on 17 April 2020 and fire outbreak on 15 May 2020, both at Ororo ML95, Ojumole, offshore, Ilage, local government area of Ondo State. Number 7, a petition from Taiwo Aye Datiwa on the same EU. Number 8, petition from Prince Aye Mobua Segun.
Yes.
Against, on behalf of Ilage Awawa, Ejaloju Federation of Cooperative Fishing Union, against Chevron and on the damage to fishing properties as well as Ojumale 18th April on oil well fire outbreak and explosion owned by Chevron. And finally, Mr. President, a petition from Abiodun Olosun, the committee leader, versus Managing Director of Niger Chem. A petition from Abiodun Olosun, a committee leader against Managing Director and top management of Niger Chem Limited. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, to the best of my knowledge, none of the above petitions is seeking judicial remedy. I therefore move, Mr. President, to seek the indulgence of the Senate to lay the above petition before the Senate for official referral to the committee for further legislative action. I so move, Mr. President.
Point of order.
Is any of the petitioners seeking judicial remedy?
No judicial remedy, Mr. President.
You may lay the petitions, please.
Point of order.
Point of order.
Point of order, Mr. President.
The petitions are referred to Senate Committee on Ethics, Public Petitions to report back within 4 weeks.
Point of order. Point of order, Mr.
Senator
President.
Kola Bolagu.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, in raising this point of order, I would like to come under Order 43. With your permission, may I read, please?
You may read.
By the indulgence of the Senate and the leave of the President of the Senate, a senator may make a personal explanation, although there be no question before the Senate, but no controversial matter may be brought forward, nor may a debate arise upon the explanation. The terms of the proposed statement shall be submitted in detail to the President of the Senate when his leave to make it is sought. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, this is to formally and officially inform the Senate of the demise of a former senator representing Oyo South in 2003 and a former governor of Oyo State, and indeed the immediate past Deputy National Chairman of the All Progressive Congress, Senator Isiaq Abiola Ajimobi. Mr. President, the Senate notes with great pain the exit of an illustrious son of this great country, Senator Isiaq Abiola Ajimobi, who passed on to the great beyond on June 25, 2020 at exactly 3:45 p.m. after a brief illness at the age of 70. Further notes, with a sense of submission to the will of God, that the late Senator Ajimobi, a distinguished Nigerian, who was also known and fondly called the Constituted Authority, was born on the 16th December 1949 to the Ajimobi of Ibadan, Ojaba, in the southwest of Nigeria. His grandfather was Shobalojo of Ibadan, a chief in the royal court of Ibadan land. Aware that the late Senator Ajimobi started his education at St. Patrick's Primary School, Okepadi, Ibadan, and completed it at the Ibadan City Council Primary School, Akberi. After his primary education, he proceeded to Lagelu Grammar School for his secondary education. The late Ajimobi studied business administration and finance at the State University of New York and graduated with a Bachelor of Science degree. He further went for his MBA in operational research, marketing, and concentration in finance at Governor State University, Park, Illinois, and took the New York insurance examination, after which he was engaged in Buffalo, New York, as a state certified underwriter by Equitable Life Assurance Corporation. Further aware that the astute politician, upon his return to Nigeria in 1977, began to rise and he rose through several managerial positions in the country. He was operational controller in Nestle Food PLC. He later became the marketing controller, consumer products manager at National Oil and Chemical Marketing Company, and later became the divisional manager, lubricants manager at Shell International Oil Company. Then as chief executive of West Africa, and later as the operations director of Shell Marketing Company in Togo. Acknowledges that the late Senator Ajimobi made great strides in the world of business for almost 3 decades before hanging his corporate suit and delving into slippery world of politics in 2003, and was elected as a senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, representing the good people of Oyo South and Central District on the platform of the Alliance for Democracy. He was a principal officer in the Senate, serving as the deputy minority leader of the Senate. After the late senator's one term in the Senate, he contested the governorship of Oyo State and was elected governor of Oyo State in April 2011. The late Ajimobi had penchant for breaking records. He broke the 39-year-old record in Oyo political entity by becoming the first to win a second term as governor of Oyo State from 2011 to 2019. Further aware that late Senator Ajimobi was appointed the acting national chairman of the All Progressive Congress, APC, a position he occupied until his death on June 25, 2020. Deeply saddened that Nigeria and the good people of Oyo South have lost an illustrious son and a distinguished political leader, and this has brought to a close another chapter in our political history. Accordingly resolved to 1. Observe a minute silence in honor of the late astute politician. 2. Send the letter of condolence to the government of Oyo State and the family of Senator Abiola Ajimobi. I thank you for your attention.
Well, distinguished colleagues, because you have come under Order 43, we can only observe the 1 minute silence. We can't take contributions from other senators seated. 1 minute silence. May the gentle soul of Senator Ajimobi rest in perfect peace. Amen.
Point of order.
Point of order, Senator Ibrahim Hassan.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I come under Order 42. With your permission, I may
You may read.
Order 42 says, the matter for discussion shall, if possible, be referred to the President of the Senate before commencement of the day's sitting, and the President of the Senate shall refuse to allow the claim unless he is satisfied that the matter is definite and urgent.
Sorry? Have you finished reading?
Yes, I have.
Okay, what is the issue?
The issue, sir, is a very, very dangerous developing security situation in 2 of my local governments in Jigawa State. And this is an unintended consequence of the multiple security operations being carried out by armed forces in Zamfara, Katsina, Sokoto, and I think parts of Niger State. So I want to bring that issue to the attention of the Senate by way of motion, Your Excellency.
Okay, let me put the question. Those in favor of the motion by Senator Ibrahim Hassan, having come under Order 42, that we allow him to take his motion the next legislative day, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Bring your motion the next legislative day.
Thank you very much, Mr.
Senator Ifeanyi.
Thank you, Mr. President. I come under Order 43. And if permitted, I may like to read.
Which point of order is that?
43.
Okay, you may read.
By the indulgence of the Senate and the leave of the President of the Senate, a senator may make a personal explanation, although there may be no question before the Senate, but no controversial matter may be brought forward, nor may debate arise upon the explanation. The terms of the proposed statement shall be submitted in detail to the President of the Senate when his leave to make it is so sought.
It says 43, personal explanation.
Yes, Mr. President.
Okay, go ahead.
Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, I come under Order 43 of the Senate Rules, personal explanation, to commend and express appreciation to the President, Muhammad Buhari, GCFR, the Inspector General of Police, IGP Mohammed Adamu, and the Senate President, Senator Ahmad Lawan, for the making and the creation of a new zonal headquarters of police, Zone 13, in Upo, Dunufofia, local government area of Anambra State, a reality. Mr. President, recently, the Inspector General of Police, IGP Mohammed Adamu, announced the creation of 5 new zonal headquarters for the Nigerian Police Force, with Zone 13 situated in Upo, Dunukofia local government of Anambra State, to be in charge of Ebonyi, Enugu, and Anambra State Police Commands. Mr. President, this is a historical milestone that is worthy of commendation because since the creation of Anambra State 25 years ago, this is the first zonal command to be established in Anambra State, particularly Upo community, which is 10 miles within Oka capital city radius, and also a central meeting point between Onitsha and Oka. It is also worthy of note to state that Dunukofia, Njikoka, Oka North and Oka South are the 4 local governments that makes up Oka City, capital city. Undoubtedly, Mr. President, security is a key enabler of development in every functional society. The creation of Zone 13 Upo, Dunukofia local government of Anambra State, is the last piece of puzzle to achieve a holistic and comprehensive security apparatus, which will strengthen Anambra State and the entire Southeastern zone capacity to tackle prevailing security challenges. May I also commend President Muhammad Buhari, GCFR, for his intervention in Enugu-Onitsha Expressway, which is presently being constructed by RCC. Upon completion, Mr. President, this road will facilitate seamless movement and connection between the 5 states of the Southeast. It is also on record that 48% work has been achieved in the second Niger Bridge project. This is an epoch-making project that will further open up our economic gateway and foster sustainable development in the Southeast. On behalf of the good people of Anambra State, I want to appreciate His Excellency President Muhammad Buhari, GCFR, the Inspector General of Police, IGP, Mohammed Adamu, and the Senate President, Senator Ahmad Lawan, for the unparalleled contribution to the actualization of this holistic feat, which I believe will harness economic prosperity and bring about the total eradication of criminal activities, community uprising, and restiveness in Anambra State and the Southeast General. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, distinguished Senator Ifeanyi Ubah, and we appreciate this appreciation, and of course, the police and indeed the federal government will continue to do everything possible to ensure that we provide optimum security in all parts of the country. Leader of the Senate.
My highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the first business of the day is the presentation of a House bill standing in my name on the National Commission for Refugees Act, Cap N21 LFN 2004 Repeal and Reenactment Bill 2020. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, National Commission for Refugees Act, Cap N21, LFN 2004, Repeal and Reenactment Bill 2020, HB 171, first reading.
National Commission for Refugees Act, Cap N21, LFN 2004, Repeal and Reenactment Bill 2020, HB 171, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the second business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Muhammad Enagi Bima on the Agricultural Credit Guarantee Scheme Fund Act, CAP A11 Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004, Amendment Bill 2020. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Agricultural Credit Guarantee Scheme Fund Act, CAP A11, LFN 2004, Amendment Bill 2020, SB 451, first reading.
Agricultural Credit Guarantee Scheme Fund Act, CAP A11, LFN 2004, Amendment Bill 2020, SB 451, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the third business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Stephanus Dingang on the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria Alteration Bill 2020. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria Alteration Bill 2020, SB 458, first reading.
1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria Alteration Bill 2020, SB 458, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
My highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the fourth business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Stella Adaeze Odua on the National Institute of Management Act number 14, 2003, Amendment Bill 2020. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, National Institute of Management Act number 14, 2003, Amendment Bill 2020, SB 464, first reading.
National Institute of Management Act number 14, 2003, Amendment Bill 2020, SB 464, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the fifth business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Oji Uzo Kalu on the Administration of Criminal Justice Act 2015, Amendment Bill 2020. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Administration of Criminal Justice Act 2015, Amendment Bill 2020, SB 465, first reading.
Administration of Criminal Justice Act 2015, Amendment Bill 2020, SB 465, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the sixth business of the day is the presentation of the reports of the Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters in respect of Sexual Harassment Bill 2020. 2. Criminal Code Act Cap C23, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004, Amendment Bill 2020. And 3. Alleged court invasion by officers of the Department of State Security Services, DSS, on Friday, 6th December 2019. Mr. President, you may wish to invite distinguished Senator Bamidele Michael Opeyemi, Chairman of the committee, to move the motion for the Senate to receive the report.
Senator Michael Opeyemi Bamidele.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm Michael Okwemi Bamidele. I represent the Central Senatorial District. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I move that the Senate do receive the reports of the Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters on the following. A. Sexual Harassment Bill 2020, SB 77. B. Criminal Code Act, Cap C38, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004, Amendment Bill 2020, SB 2. And C. Alleged court invasion by officers of the Department of the State Security Services on Friday, 6th December 2019, to be laid, Mr. President. Thank you so much. I so move.
Senator Binosiaro Doda. Can you second, please?
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the Senate receives the reports of the Senate Committee on Judiciary and Legal Matters say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Distinguished Chairman, you may lead the reports, please. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the service business of the day is the presentation of reports of the Committee on Tertiary Institutions and TED Fund in respect of 1. City University of Technology, Auchi, Establishment, etc. Bill 2020. 2. Federal College of Education, Mutumbiu, Taraba State, Establishment, etc. Bill 2020. 3. Federal College of Education, Giwa, Kaduna State Establishment Bill 2020. And 4. Federal College of Education Technical, Ibokun Establishment Bill 2020. Mr. President, you may wish to invite distinguished Senator Ahmed Babaketa, Chairman of the committee, to move the motion for the Senate to receive the report.
Senator Ahmed Babaketa.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. May I move that the Senate will receive the report of the Committee on Tertiary Institutions and TED Fund on the following. Let me begin by saying there was some technical problem with the City University Technology, and it was removed only for it to appear in another and a new order paper. So we have 3 reports here. That is B, Federal College of Education, Mutumbiu, Establishment Bill 2020 SB 101. C, Federal College of Education, Giwa, Kaduna State, Establishment Bill 2020 SB 121. And finally, Federal College of Education, Technical, Ibokun, Establishment Bill 2020 SB 134. May I move to lay them, Mr. President?
Very distinguished Senator Professor Sandy Ono.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. I rise to second the motion that the Senate do receive the reports of the Committee on Tertiary Institutions and third phone on the aforementioned institutions. Thank you, Mr. President.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the Senate receives the reports of the Senate Committee on Tertiary Institutions say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. You may let the reports. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the eighth business of the day is the presentation of reports of the Committee of Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions. In respect of A, petition from Alhaji Bashir Abdullahi and 5 others against MTN Group Limited and Airtel Nigeria for alleged unbearable noise and discomfort caused by telecommunication masts mounted at number 20 OK Agbe Street, Garki, Abuja. B, petition from Honorable Julius Ibere and Wojiji Abraham on behalf of Easy Development Union against the Federal Ministry of Education for citing the newly approved Federal College of Education in Ebonyi South Senatorial District instead of Ebonyi North Senatorial District. C, two petitions from Akuzo leaders of thought and Oba Patriotic Union, respectively, against Reverend Uche Yu Ibiobuchi, who was seen as unqualified to be nominated for appointment as a representative of Anambra in the Federal Character Commission. And D, petition from CSP Ebere Uche Mike, retired, against the National Pension Commission, PENCOM, for the poor retirement benefits and pension of retired Nigerian police officers. Mr. President, you may wish to invite distinguished Senator Patrick Akinyelure, Chairman of the committee, to move a motion for the Senate to receive the report.
Senator Akinyelure, all over one.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. My name remains Ayoa Akinyelure, representing Ondo Central. Mr. President, I stand to move that the Senate do receive the reports of the Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions in respect of A, petition from Alhaji Bashir Abdullahi and 5 others against MTN Group Limited and Airtel Nigeria for alleged unbearable noise and the discomfort caused by a telecommunication mast mounted at number 20 Okiagbe Street, Garki, Abuja. 2, petition from Honorable Julius Ibere and Wojiji Abraham on behalf of Easy Development Union IDU against Federal Ministry of Education for citing the newly approved Federal College of Education in Ebonyi South Central District instead of Ebonyi North Central District. C, Mr. President, 2 petitions from Okuso leaders of thought and Oba Patriotic Union, respectively, against Reverend Uche Yu Ibiabuchi, who was seen as unqualified to be nominated for appointment as a representative of Anambra State in the Federal Capital Commission, Federal Character Commission, FCC. And finally, Mr. President, petition from CSP Ebere Uche Mike, retired, against the National Pension Commission, PENCOM, for the poor retirement benefits of pension of retired Nigerian police officers. Mr. President, I seek the indulgence of the Senate to officially lay this petition before the Senate. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Issa Jibrin.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I am Issa Jibrin, representing Kogi East. I rise to second that the Senate do consider the reports of the Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions in respect of the petitions mentioned, and that the petitions should be laid accordingly. I so second.
So, colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the Senate receives the reports of the petitions from our Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. You may let the reports. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the first order of the day is a motion standing in the name of distinguished Senator Patrick Abba-Moro on harassment attack on Ochori and Itakpa communities in Benue South Senatorial District of Benue State. Urgent need for legislative intervention. Mr. President, you may wish to recall that on Tuesday, 9th June 2020, the Senate, via Order 42, subsection 2 of our standing orders, approved that this motion be moved on the next legislative day, which is today. Accordingly, Mr. President, you may wish to invite distinguished Senator Patrick Abba-Moro to move the motion.
Distinguished Senator Comrade Patrick Abba-Moro.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have on my name here Patrick Abba-Moro, representing the very good people of Benue South Senatorial District, and a motion requiring the urgent intervention of the Senate on the attack on two communities in my senatorial district. If Mr. President approves or indulges me, I'll read the motion.
Go ahead.
Mr. President, the motion is titled Herdsmen Attack on Echori and the Itakpa communities in the Benue South Senatorial District of Benue State, an urgent need for intervention. Sponsored by my humble self. The Senate notes with grave concern the recent twin attacks of suspected Fulani herdsmen on two communities of Echori and Itakpa of Obi local government area of Benue State, of the Benue South Senatorial District of Benue State on the 10th of May 2020 and 1st of June 2020 respectively. The Senate notes further with sadness that two persons, Innocent Joseph, Antonio Bu Alapa, and 11 other persons enumerated above were mowed down by the marauders. Saddened that this is one in a series of attacks and kidnappings carried out by the herdsmen in communities in the Benue South Senatorial District, leaving in their wakes loss of lives and wanton destruction of properties. And more saddened that as of today, no single person out of the perpetrators of these heinous attacks have been apprehended. Accordingly, the Senate resolves. The Senate urges the Nigerian police and other relevant security agencies to carry out a comprehensive investigation of these dastardly attacks with a view to arresting the perpetrators. 2, the Senate urges the federal government to mount comprehensive surveillance at the affected areas to proactively detect and deter further attacks. 3, the Senate urges the Nigerian police and other relevant security agencies as a matter of national emergency necessity to review their operational mechanism with a view to be more proactive. And 4, the Senate requests the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, to immediately mobilize relief materials to those many persons displaced by these recent attacks in the Echori and Itakpa communities. And finally, request the Senate to observe a minute silence in honor of the deceased persons. I so move, Mr. President.
Anyone who wants to contribute? I need a second. Senator Binosi Arodora.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President,
I represent Kaduna South.
All right, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, my name is Dinos Daudayaro, representing Adamawa South. I rise to second the motion presented by my colleague, distinguished colleague, Comrade Senator Abamoro, concerning herdsmen attack on his community. Mr. President, this is an all too familiar case that we have debated in these chambers a number of times. In times past, herdsmen and farmers lived side by side without problem. Any infractions, any misunderstandings are always resolved amicably. But Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, today we see every small incident resulting in serious conflict and attacks that lead to loss of lives. Recently, I saw a post in social media posted by one of our distinguished colleagues, where some of these people that are carrying out these attacks are foreigners. They are not even Nigerians. But Mr. President, because we have allowed these foreigners to come into our country and cause havoc and attack communities without doing anything about it, this has encouraged more of them to do the same thing. Mr. President, we must attack this problem. We must stop it, and we must make sure that the police fish out the perpetrators of these attacks and bring them to justice. It is only by doing this that this can be brought to a stop. So with this, Mr. President, I second the motion, and I urge my colleagues to approve it. Thank you.
We go to the prayers, please. Prayer 1. Urge the Nigeria Police and other relevant security agencies to carry out a comprehensive investigation of these dastardly attacks with a view to arresting the perpetrators. Those in favor of prayer 1, say aye. Those in favor of this prayer, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 2. Urge the federal government to mount comprehensive surveillance at the affected areas to proactively detect and deter further future attacks. Those in favor of prayer 2, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 3. Urge the Nigeria Police and other relevant security agencies, as a matter of national emergency, necessity to review the operational mechanism with a view to being more proactive. Those in favor of this prayer, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 4. Request the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, to immediately mobilize relief materials to those many persons displaced by these recent attacks in Echori and Itak Park communities. Those in favor of this prayer, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. And prayer 5. Request the Senate to observe a minute silence in honor of the deceased persons. Those in favor of this prayer, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. 1 minute silence. May the souls of our departed compatriots rest in perfect peace. Amen. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the second order of the day is a motion standing in the name of distinguished Senator Ifeanyi Patrick Uba on the International Day of Parliamentarianism. Mr. President, you may wish to invite distinguished Senator Ifeanyi Patrick Uba to move the motion.
Senator Ifeanyi Patrick Uba.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ifeanyi Patrick Uba, Anambra South Senatorial District. Mr. President, and my distinguished colleagues, Senate notes that the International Day of Parliamentarism was established...
Distinguished colleagues, hold on, distinguished. I think it will be helpful we observe the social distancing. I think we should help ourselves on that. Okay, continue, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Note that the International Day of Parliamentarism was established by the United Nations. Please pardon the date I mentioned earlier on. By the United Nations General Assembly in its resolution A/RES 72/278 and aimed at recognizing the role of parliaments in the national plans and strategies and in ensuring greater transparency and accountability at national and global levels. For I know that the day celebrates parliaments and also an opportunity for parliaments to take stock, identify challenges, and ways to address them effectively. Aware that every country in the world has some form of representative government with 79 bicameral and 114 or bicameral chambers of parliament with over 6,000 members of parliament. Further aware that today, that was yesterday, the 30th June 2020, is the 131st anniversary of the Interparliamentary Union, IPU, and the celebration of the 3rd edition of International Day of the Parliamentarism. Concerned that despite the parliament being the most important arm of government in a democracy due to its representativeness, it is the most vilified and the most misunderstood arm of government. And further concerned that parliaments all over the world are needed. And further concerned that parliaments all over the world are needed more than ever to put in place legislation to respond to the health and economic crisis occasioned by COVID-19 pandemic, protect vulnerable peoples, and help scrutinize government actions and spending. Senate accordingly resolved to congratulate the Interparliamentary Union and community of parliamentarians in the world over on this occasion of the International Day of Parliamentarism, and urge parliamentarians in Nigeria, both in the state and federal levels, to use this opportunity to take stock and reposition themselves as the pivot of democracy and nation building in the country. I so move, Mr. President.
I need a seconder, please. Yeah, I need a seconder. Senator Samata Deni, you can seconder his motion on International Day of Parliamentarism.
Your Excellency, I rise to support the motion ably moved by my brother, Senator Ifeanyi Uba.
What motion?
That the Senate do support the motion for us to accept and approve today as the day of parliamentarian. I so move, Mr. President.
Well, let me, you have seconded as well as made your contribution. So we go to the prayers. Prayer 1, congratulate the Interparliamentary Union and the community of parliamentarians the world over on this occasion of the International Day of Parliamentarianism. Those in favor of this prayer say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. And prayer 2, urge parliamentarians in Nigeria, both at the state and federal levels, to use this opportunity to take stock and reposition themselves as the pivots of democracy and nation building in the country. Those in favor of this prayer say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Well, distinguished colleagues, this is a special day for parliamentarians across the world. I take this opportunity to congratulate all parliamentarians and parliaments across the world. Here in Nigeria, and like indeed anywhere else, democracy is largely defined by the presence of parliament, really. And parliamentarians are expected to undertake those three fundamental pillars of their mandate. That is representation, oversight, and of course, ensuring that we always legislate on good governance. Here, it is important to mention and indeed emphasize that this National Assembly will continue to undertake its oversight functions on the executive arm of government. Where we have issues, we should advise how those issues will be properly addressed, because we want to see optimum performance in our government. And where we have to provide legislative intervention as quickly as possible, we should do so, because the purpose of any legislation is to improve on a situation. So we should continue to do that. And in the process of oversight, we must be mindful of the fact that this is one fundamental function of the legislature, the parliament, that we cannot afford to take very lightly. This is to ensure that if we approve any funds, especially the annual budgets and indeed any supplementary budget, we must follow through. We must track how expenditures are made and the efficiency, economy, and prudence with which the projects are achieved. So I want to congratulate all of us, and of course, we have a challenge. We need to continue to educate and enlighten our citizens to know exactly what our functions are. The legislature is, without any argument, the most misunderstood part of government, arm of government that people themselves vote for. Yet, we are so misunderstood. So it is our responsibility as a parliament to continue to enlighten the people that we represent on what is expected of us. With this, I want to congratulate and commend Senator Patrick Ifeanyuba for his very important motion. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the third order of the day is a motion standing in the name of distinguished Senator Issa Jibrin on the urgent need for the completion and take-off of the federal government aquaculture project in Ida, Kogi State. Mr. President, we wish to invite distinguished Senator Issa Jibrin to move the motion.
Senator Issa Jibrin.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I am Issa Jibrin, representing the very good people of Kogi East. Mr. President, this motion is in furtherance to the ongoing federal government's efforts at diversifying the Nigerian economy into agriculture. The Senate commends the efforts of the federal government at diversifying the Nigerian economy in view of the increasing unfavorable climate in the world oil market. Notes that agriculture forms one of the core spindles around which the government's diversification program revolves, and rightly so, given the enormous agricultural potentials in the country. Further notes that the National Biotechnology Development Agency was established in 2001 to undertake well-focused research and development into biotechnology in priority areas of food and agriculture, health, industry, environment, and other strategic sectors for national development, and draw up programs and policies for biotechnology utilization, research, and development in Nigeria. Concerned that, according to NAFDA, the demand for fish in Nigeria is currently about 3.2 million tons annually. Of these, 1.1 tons is produced locally, while about 1 million tons is imported, leaving a deficit of about 1.1 million tons. Further concerned that inadequate supply of quality fingerlings and fish feeds and low quality pressed pellets produced locally constitute the major challenges of aquaculture in Nigeria. Cognizant that in fulfilling its mandate, outcomes of research and development of NAFDA are disseminated, propagated, and reproduced by 34 centers it has established across the country, as the centers have the scope, capacity, and immediate access and contacts to host communities. Further consider that of the 34 centers of NAFDA, 4 are designated as aquatic bioresource centers with focus on aquaculture. These are located at Ida in Kogi State, Pateg in Kwara State, Tunari in Taraba State, and Adiodo in Cross River State, with Ida as the pioneer center established in 2015. Realize that for proper takeoff and functioning of the Ida Center, a high-tech fingerling production equipment with capacity to produce 500,000 fingerlings per batch and 3 million fingerlings per year was imported and has been at the center since 2008. Further, realize that the imported equipment represents a world-class recirculating aquaculture system with the filtration, aeration, oxygenation, sterilization, and decarbonizing units. Recalls that a 500 kg per hour fish feed extruder line with all the machinery comprising the grinder, mixer, preconditioner, extruder, cutter, dryer, cooler, packaging machines, and a boiler has been equally procured and delivered to the center. Regrets that the various machinery and equipment at the Ida Center have not been installed since 2018, thereby inhibiting the takeoff of the project. Further regrets that apart from the non-installation of the machinery and equipment, rainstorm has damaged parts of the buildings at the center, which calls for immediate attention to avoid further mishap. I'm convinced that the immediate completion of the center through installation of the machinery and equipment and the repair of the buildings will adequately position the center to serve as a source of high-quality fingerlings and fish feeds in the country, which will be a major boost to the ongoing economic diversification efforts into agriculture. Meanwhile, the foreign exchange currently spent on importation of fingerlings and fish feeds will be conserved as part of the import substitution strategy of the government. Accordingly, resolves to urge the National Biotechnology Development Agency to ensure immediate installation of the machinery and equipment and equally address the repairs of the damaged buildings to actualize the takeoff of the project at Ida, and urge the Senate Committee on Science and Technology to interface with the Federal Ministry of Science and Technology and NAFDA to ensure expeditious takeoff of the center and report back to the Senate within a month. I so move, sir.
Senator Smart, former comrade.
Mr. President, I rise to support this motion ably moved by my friend and colleague, Senator Issa Jibrin. It is so depressing to hear, Mr. President, that equipment have been imported since 2008, 2018, and that they are yet to be installed. I think, Mr. President, more than ever before, the time has come for us to make sure that such projects are completed. I think more importantly is the fact that we are now compelled as a nation to start looking at how we can diversify our economy and make sure that there are local productions of food and other agricultural needs of our nation. Just yesterday, our president flagged off the multi-billion-naira gas pipeline across the country. I think such projects are needed at this time. Like I do say times without number, that there was a time in this country that we had enough resources. Our problem was how to invest and utilize the resources that was available. When oil was selling at $150, $120, $140, there was a party that ruined those resources. But it is gratifying to know that the meager resources that are available in our nation today is being well utilized by President Muhammadu Buhari. There was one party that was making billions from the sales of crude oil. They never thought of how to diversify the economy. They never thought of how some of these projects will be completed. We are happy we have a progressive government in place. We're part
Senator, distinguished Senator Smata Adeyemi, you are very well protected. Fire.
We are happy. We are happy. We are happy that we are in a very progressive government, a very progressive party, a party that is well focused, a party that is diversifying our economy,
Point of order, the minority leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. 53-6. I'm sorry, not 6. No, I'm coming, sir. No.
Confine himself.
He should confine himself, and I want to get the proper one because I don't want the one that will sit him down properly. Mr. President, he knows where I'm coming from. I don't know why Mr. President is
Sign the order. Sign the order.
Mr. President, this express approval.
A senator,
I think I will ask him to continue while you are looking for. Yes, Senator Smart Ademi, continue.
I'm sorry, Mr. President. Let me take my seat while I ask him to confine himself to the subject matter.
Thank you very much. Senator Smart Ademi, try to round up.
Thank you, Mr. President. The completion of the aquaculture project in Ida will not only increase fish production in our country, but I think more importantly too, Mr. President, it will provide job opportunities for the teeming millions of youths that are unemployed. This project is a very laudable one, and when it's completed, I'm sure the nation stands to benefit a lot from it. Once again, Mr. President, I'm sure yourself and others who belong to the progressive will be very happy that this kind of project will definitely be completed under President Muhammadu Buhari's government, as he's doing to open up other frontiers that are hitherto being untouched, even when the nation was basketing on how to use billions of naira coming from crude oil. President Buhari is using the very scarce resources available in such a way that all of us are very proud. And we look forward to some members in the other side to think on crossing over to where we have progress. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Minority Leader, do you want to make a contribution?
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to really make this very small contribution. While we actually support this very good motion from our friend from Kogi State, we would like to actually make the rest of the members of the Senate to know that some people benefited by going in the night to the villa every time as members of the inner circle of the Jonathan government. And we can mention their names here. If you want, I will mention their names, who benefited tremendously from Jonathan. And now we come
and I even exported them to the villa.
Minority Leader.
Exported smart.
Minority Leader. Minority Leader. Senator Smart Ademi, you know, I thought somebody was going to raise order 53-4 against the Minority Leader, but you see how gracious the progressives can be. But we are all progressives. You missed the opportunity to justify our thinking that we are also a progressive. But I know what you people did in the Servants' Assembly. That axis of evil men. So it's you are talking as a friend to your friend, but Smart is a progressive, not anymore. We'll go to the prayers now. Thank you very much for your contributions. Prayer 1. Urge the National Biotechnology Development Agency to ensure immediate installation of the machinery and equipment, and equally address the repairs of the damaged buildings to actualize the takeoff of the project at Ida. Those in favor of this prayer say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. And prayer 2, urge the Senate Committee on Science and Technology to interface with the Federal Ministry of Science and Technology and NAFDA to ensure expeditious takeoff of the center and report back to the Senate within a month. Those in favor of prior 2 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Leader of the Senate, that will be the last motion, right? Okay.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the fourth order of the day is a motion standing in the name of distinguished Senator Gasham Bath on the need to review the domestic legal framework against illicit financial flows and consider the creation of a tax amnesty for the voluntary repatriation of funds to Nigeria. Mr. President, you may wish to invite distinguished Senator Gasham Bath to move the motion.
Senator Gasham Bath.
Thank you, Mr. President. Geshambasi, Cross River South. It's a rather long motion, so I'll try to abridge it. Aware that the Nigerian economy and its socio-economic development have deeply suffered from the unabated cross-border financial draining of the nation's revenue by illicit financial flows. IFFs. The IFFs are widely understood as the cross-border transfer of capital that are illegally earned, illegally transferred, or illegally utilized. IFFs often consist of commercial money, laundering, tax evasion, and proceeds of corruption and criminal activity. Alarmed that according to a 2014 Global Financial Integrity Report, Nigeria lost a minimum of $140 billion to illicit financial flows between 2000 and 2014, mainly to crude oil and commercial activities mispricing. This enormous economic loss to the country was not abated as Nigeria was ranked amongst the global top 30 countries of illicit financial flows by dollar value, with $8.3 billion in illicit financial outflows from Nigeria in 2015. Further alarmed that the Tax Justice Network and the IMF estimated that developing countries, including Nigeria, have lost over $200 billion per year to illicit financial flows as multinational corporations neglect, fail, refuse to pay taxes or refuse to pay taxes in these countries where they generate substantial amounts of profit. Nigeria loses approximately $15 billion annually to offshore tax evasion. This has resulted in a consistently low tax revenue as a percentage of GDP, as low as 5.7% in 2017. Such statistics are alarming, especially when compared to the 17.2% average of 26 African countries in the same year. Concerned that this incessant financial drain on Nigeria's economy continues to have negative implications for domestic resource mobilization and long-term economic growth and development. IFFs continue to pose serious obstacles to development as approximately 5% of the IFFs from Africa can be attributed to corruption, while 95% of IFFs come from commercial and criminal activity. These unrecorded and untaxed cross-border financial transfers could have been mobilized as part of government's revenues and injected into Nigeria's formal economy towards sustained development and economic growth. Further concerned that there are at least 12 Nigerian institutions and agencies with responsibilities that align with tackling IFFs and related crimes. Yet, Nigeria continues to be menaced by weak regulatory structures and the complicity of other financial secrecy jurisdictions, amongst other things. With estimates that 60% of IFFs from Nigeria are predominantly committed by multinational corporations, These challenges continue to drive the cross-border siphoning of the country's revenues to the direct and or indirect benefit of foreign economies. Senate observes that international information sharing and domestication of relevant policies has become a global priority in order to ensure cross-border cooperation to tackle this global trend to national revenue generation and its negative economic and developmental impact. Senate further observes that this global awareness has prompted governments to develop measures and policies aimed at eradicating the perpetuation of IFFs, such as the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development's Common Reporting Standard, a set of principles for the cross-border implementation of financial information automatic exchange between countries to assist tax authorities track offshore holdings of taxpayers. The Senate further notes that although Nigeria is taking steps to curtail IFFs, especially from tax evasion, billions of dollars have already been lost to IFFs. A CBN Financial Stability report in 2014 estimated that 35% of illicit financial flows out of Nigeria could be attributed to oil bunkering. Until the recent economic recession, the oil sector accounted for 95% of Nigeria's foreign exchange earnings and 80% of Nigeria's total budgetary revenue. It has therefore become imperative to recover some of these funds so as to increase short-term national revenues, particularly to alleviate the pressures of the current COVID-19 pandemic while implementing mechanisms to prevent further IFFs. Senate is aware that international best practices and examples from other countries, such as South Africa and Italy, have shown that a careful formulated funds and asset repatriation scheme that consists of specific timeframes and effective legislative framework that enforces anti-money laundering and anti-corruption measures, competent enforcement authorities, adequate resources and cooperation, both international and domestic, could have multiple benefits for a country. This could provide an avenue for Nigeria to repatriate lost resources, provide relevant authorities with otherwise unavailable information about illicit cross-border transfer channels, and potentially deter future IFF practices. The Senate is convinced that in order to foster the repatriation of Nigerian offshore funds, the Nigerian government could introduce an appealing yet legally acceptable offshore repatriation framework with legal and economic incentives to taxpayers and multinational corporations to repatriate such resources. Such a framework could allow Nigeria reclaim billions of lost revenue, which could be injected into our economy to boost economic growth. In light of the recent global crisis, it is critical that Nigeria enhances its national revenue to revive the economy and support its citizens and local businesses in the wake of this global pandemic. Accordingly, the Senate resolves to 1, mandate the Senate Committees on Finance, Anti-Corruption and Financial Crimes, Banking, Insurance, and other financial institutions to investigate the phenomenon of illicit financial flows and appraise the federal government's current policy framework to curb the continuous loss of Nigeria's revenue to illicit financial flows. 2, mandate the Senate Committees on Finance, National Planning, Anti-Corruption and Financial Crimes, Banking, and other, etc., to appraise the Federal Inland Revenue's current framework for tracing, identifying, and preventing and sanctioning cross-border tax evasion and other illicit financial outflows. 3, invite the Minister and the executive heads of the Federal Inland FIRS, EFCC, CBN, and ICPC, and of course the NFIU and NEXIM, etc., and any other relevant institution to address the committee on the continuous loss of government revenue to illicit financial flows, and to present reports on the measures being sought to curb revenue losses, particularly the coordinated implementation of the automatic exchange of information standard in order to prevent further revenue leakages and curb tax evasion and money laundering activities. Finally, mandate the committee to advise the Senate on a holistic legislative framework on how to repatriate lost revenue due to IFFs, mitigate future unabated illicit financial flows, and provide an efficient strategy for the reinvestment of these repatriated resources into the Nigerian economy. I so move.
I need only one person because we don't have time and we have to read. So, Senator Gobir.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, distinguished colleagues. I rise to support this motion because of its importance. The motion is very good. If you look at the way things are going, how did India get enough money? How did Singapore get enough money? How are they getting it in Pakistan and also Indonesia? It is through this. In fact, what is happening is that any amount of money that you are sending into India is free of charge, no tax at all. And that is why they will end up with abundant dollars to be able to pursue whatever they want to pursue. Unlike in Nigeria here, where we would have a lot of problems. And because we are putting tax on that, people are now trying to find any illicit means, any illegal ways to send their money. And that is why we're having problems. So I support this motion. It's very, very important. And I hope that our colleagues will also support it. Thank you very much.
Senator Barojibrin, you have 1.5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think this motion is apt, very, very important in view of the current situation we find ourselves, where we're having problems in garnering revenues to fund the activities of government and to boost our economy. It's something that, when properly pursued, will help to bring in the needed revenues to alleviate the problems we are currently facing in the country. It has been there, and there have been a lot of lamentations about how to deal with this problem without taking concrete steps to make sure that we surmount the problem that we face due to illicit financial flows. Now, what we need to do is to follow the recommendations, the suggestion, as put forward by this motion, making sure that all the relevant bodies, relevant institutions should come together to deal with this problem once and for all. It shouldn't be something that we should be talking about it all the time, but should take concrete steps, bring in the use of technology and every means possible, because it's something that will boost our revenue. It's something that will help us, particularly in this period of time, where we borrow money to fund our expenditures, and these monies are there. So we should have this money. We should go forward, make sure, pursue, how to deal with this problem and get this solved once and for all. I say submit, Mr. President.
Let's go to the prayers. Prayer 1, mandate the Senate Committee on Finance, Anti-Corruption and Financial Crimes, Banking, Insurance, and other financial institutions to A, investigate the phenomenon of illicit financial flows, and B, appraise the federal government's current policy framework to curb the continuous loss of Nigeria's revenue to illicit financial flows. Those in favor of this prayer say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 2, mandate the Senate Committees on Finance, National Planning, Anti-Corruption and Financial Crimes, Banking, Insurance, and other financial institutions, and to appraise the Federal Revenue Service, FRS, current framework for tracing, identifying, preventing, and sanctioning cross-border tax evasion and other illicit financial outflows. Those in favor will say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 3, invite the Minister of Finance and the Executive Heads of the Federal Land Revenue Service, Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, Central Bank of Nigeria, and Independent Corrupt Practices Commission, Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit, the Nigerian Export-Import Bank, Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, and any other relevant institution to address the Committee on the continuous loss of government revenue to elicit financial flows and to present reports on the measures being sought to curb revenue losses, particularly the coordinated implementation of the automatic exchange of information standard in order to prevent further revenue leakages and curb tax evasion and money laundering activities. Those who favor this prayer say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. And prayer 4, mandate the committee to advise the Senate on a holistic legislative framework on how to repatriate lost revenue due to IFFS, mitigate future unabated illicit financial flows, and provide an efficient strategy for the reinvestment of these repatriated resources into the Nigerian economy. Those in favor of prayer 4 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Thank you very much, distinguished colleagues, and particularly the sponsors of this very important motion. With this, distinguished colleagues, we have come to the end of today's session. The Senate Leader.
Mr. President, I rise to move a motion for this distinguished Senate to step down the consideration of all items on our legislative agenda for today to another legislative day. I so move.
Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the Senate stands without the consideration of the remaining items on the order paper say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, I rise to move a motion for the distinguished Senate to adjourn proceedings until Tuesday, 7th July 2020. I so move.
Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the Senate do adjourn till Tuesday, 7th of July 2020 at 10 a.m. from say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The Senate is hereby adjourned till Tuesday, the 7th day of July 2020 at 10 a.m. prompt. Thank you.